crypto warriors, changing our world day by day. The way of the crypto warriors, can't rely on the bankers, no way.
Bix Weir, roadtour.com with your morning horns. Here's your sip of chaga coffee. I know it's crazy out there. We're going to talk silver. We're going to talk some cryptos. By the way, I posted the latest discussion with Jenny Moonstone. It is called The Inflation Explosion Looms and Which Cryptos Will Survive Coming SEC Regulations. The SEC has written the crypto regulations finally, after 12 years. It's insane what the criminality within our government. See, that's the other thing. When the system falls apart, who's going to trust the SEC? Who's going to trust the Biden administration? Who's going to trust the Justice Department? Who's going to trust anybody? When trust is gone, are these regulations even going to matter? But if they do matter and Gary Gensler gets what he wants, Ginny and I went through 8 cryptos and talked about whether or not they will survive. Anything DeFi related will not survive if these regulations get implemented. The bankers don't want competition. They want to do their own thing. So I would highly suggest if you have any DeFi tokens, they're probably locked up for a time frame that you won't be happy with. Get out of the DeFi space. A lot of people already have, so there you go. But we go over 8 different cryptos and or 7 or 8 different cryptos, how they will do if these regulations get passed, which they are headed for passing this fall. There's a race. If you listen to the crypto viewing guys, there's a race between when the system will crash and will we have the regulations in place. So kind of a heads up that it might last through, I'm thinking through September. But let me talk about one thing. The silver price, we know that it's rigged. We've shown how it's rigged. We know who the players are, who's involved, how long it's been going on. Look at this chart for silver since the 1970s. Each spike will have an explanation. Everything in the economic system has to have an explanation. They make something up on the day. Over time, it's figured out kind of what it might be. In the late 1970s, the Hunt brothers were trying to get their hands on as much silver as possible because they saw what the U.S. government was doing. They did not like what the government was doing, printing money hand over fist. So they started buying silver. And I think ultimately they bought 100 million, 110 million ounces of silver, which is not that much silver if you look what's traded, 3 times that is traded every day these days. But that's what they did, and that's the explanation behind the spike in silver prices up to right around $50 in 1980. And then in 2011, JP Morgan they ended up taking over Bear Stearns. They rigged the silver price to $50, and then they slammed it down from there, creating an artificial bear market. But the bear market from 1980 to 2000, right around the year 2000, this is 100% computer-controlled manipulation. Computers and derivatives control every market we have. And the sooner, especially the guys who talk about it on YouTube and on the financial press, the sooner they understand that this is a long-term manipulation and silver has not been freely traded probably since 1850, is the sooner we'll get past this insanity and we'll have a true fair market value price of silver, which will be in the range probably 1-to-1 with gold, because there's about 6 billion ounces of each. Any other explanation, I just dismiss out of hand because it's ridiculous. And anybody who says they shouldn't be valued at 1-to-1 or better, truthfully, we don't need gold. Gold's stuck in the ground. We got Bitcoin now as a store of value. Gold would be fine as a store of value, but it has no other real purpose other than jewelry. Tiny amounts, yeah, in spacecraft and shit like that. The reality is, we don't need gold. If gold went away tomorrow, no one would really care. With silver, it would affect every single human on the planet. There's so much silver that goes into electronic components because it is the number one best conductor of electricity. And what is matter made of? It's electrical particles. The whole universe is electricity. And what is the number one best conductor of electricity? Allows the free flowing of everything is silver. That's why they use it in all these computers and flat screen TVs and cell phones, and you name it, there's some silver component to it. Now we have solar panels. 120 million ounces every year is being consumed in solar panels, and the lovely powers that be want to quadruple that. So that would be what? An extra 500 million ounces of silver to be used in solar panels. That is insane. Right now, I just talked to a solar panel guy who makes solar panels, and they have no clue that silver is massively undervalued. They don't even think about the value of silver. All they do is they buy their cheap solar panels from China. They don't know how much silver's in it. They know they're cheap. He's like, I can buy as many panels as I want. Bix, you don't know what you're talking about. At $20,000 silver, and there's 1 to 2 ounces of silver in a solar panel, that's $40,000 for a single solar panel. How would the solar panel market work? That was one of, because it uses so much silver, it's one of the industries that would go away with the high price of silver. And it probably should go away. There's better ways to make electricity that the government's hiding from us, but we won't go down that path. But this is the number one thing you're going to be hearing about for the next 4 months at least. Probably 5 or 6 if the system stays together. 4 months. A shocked Wall Street reacts to today's scary CPI print. You're going to be hearing the word inflation ad nauseum. I love that word, ad nauseum, for the next 4 months. Why? Various reasons. The prices of everything's going up, which is obvious. Both supply, demand, and the most important component is the money supply. They're printing so much money, it's shocking. All the money they gave everybody to spend for COVID. Everybody is getting money. And if you're poor, you get more money. That's the solution of the Biden administration. If prices go up, what do? You give people money so that they can afford to buy gas and food and all that. What does that do? Adds more money to the money supply. It's a vicious loop we're in now, and there's no way out. The only way out is what Volcker did, raise interest rates above the inflation price. So inflation just got reported at 8.6. I'll get to that in a second too. 8.6. So that means the Fed needs to raise interest rates to 9-10% now. And they aren't. Stuck at 1 to 2%. And we will be there forever. The Fed is stuck. Now, one of the biggest things, I've been looking at inflation for the past few months, and I'm like, it's going to hit 9% soon. And I thought it would be this quarter because I knew we'd come in month to month about a 1% increase, which is huge. 1% in a month? Carry that out, it's 12% for the year. But the reality is that's how fast the hyperinflation mode is moving. What I didn't factor into, I talked about it a little, but I didn't really fully understand, was that the inflation number is 100% contingent upon what happened last year. Because it is a yearly rate. So when you hear inflation's at 8.6%, that means prices are 8.6% higher than the month before. So May of 2021, it's 8.6% higher. So even though inflation was at 8.3% and then went up 1% for the month, which is, you would think 9.3%, the inflation a year ago had jumped as well. So that tamped down the price, as Rustam Benham would say. So May inflation went from 4.2 to 5.0. That's why it only went up that small amount, 3%, 0.3%. But look at this. Look what's happening over June, July, and August. It goes from 5% to 5.4% to 5.3% to 5.4% and doesn't start moving again until October. So we have June, July, August, September, and then all of October until the numbers are created. So that's 4 or 5 months of flat inflation. June, it went up a little, 0.4%. Not as much as May, which was 0.8%. So we're going to see a big print come June, but July, August, September, it went actually down in August. that means 100% of the inflation that happens for the month is going to get attributed to inflation. I think we're going to be at 15% inflation come September. 15%. Will that be shocking? Absolutely. Will that destroy the system? Absolutely. And so, the numbers come out like 10 days after the month is over. So the next number is going to be about June. I didn't see the official date, but July, I would guess the 10th or 11th, depending on where it falls on the day of the week. And that'll be for the June inflation numbers. I expect those to finally bump up a decent amount, probably around 9%. Now, 9%, I've been talking about that number for a while. That's a very important number. It goes back to 1980. It jumped from 9% to 12% to 15% to 20%. And moving. That's when Volcker had to bring 20% interest rates to shock the system. And it took 2 or 3 years for the inflation to be tamped down. You think Jerome Powell's going to do that? Not a chance in the world. So where does it go? It goes 25, 30, 50, 100% inflation. That's where we're headed, and we're going there fast, especially with this data. And let me show you the other chart. This is the actual numbers from the data. You can see it goes from May and last year, April to May, it was a huge jump in inflation, 0.8%. That's why it isn't even bigger a number. That's why it's only went from 8.3 to 8.6. But look at June. It only jumped 0.4. That's half the amount. So if inflation keeps at the current pace, we'll probably hit, so that would be 9.1. If we're on the time frame that the Fed, I think, is going. 9.1 in July, and then August is going to be the big one because July, 9.1 in June. July will be big because it goes 5.4 to 5.4. There's no increase last year. That means all of the inflation will be soaked into July. In August, it actually went down. So if all the inflation soaked into July, that puts us at 10% by July, and then in August, 12%. And in September, only 0.1. We're looking at probably, I would say, 15% by September. 15% inflation. When did Volcker raise the interest rates to 20%? When the CPI was hovering around 10, 11, 12, and then went to 15. And he had to raise interest rates to 20%. Do you think the Fed will raise interest rates to 20% by September? September 11th. Let's just name a date, so we know how important that date is. So Jenny and I talk about that as well, by the way. All right. And the interesting thing is, they talk about the CPI inflation numbers. Yeah, it was 8.6%. And Wall Street, this shocking Wall Street. Wall Street's actually allowed to go down right now, which is crazy. So headline CPI surged by 1% in the month on month, beating expectations of 0.07. That's a big beat. Energy prices spiked 3.9% month on month as gas prices reached all-time record levels, and food prices increased 1.2%. Year-on-year headline CPI inflation made 40-year highs at 8.6%. You see how fast over here at the back end of this graph that it just jumped right here in the 1980s. And that's when Paul Volcker had to put on the 20% interest rates. Anybody that thinks we're coming out of this death spiral unscathed is smoking hopium. So the interesting thing about CPI numbers, they come out about 10 days after the month, and then so you're already a third of the way into the next month, and you can gauge how prices are doing compared to the month prior. So I checked out the news on what's going on right now, and here we have it. Nationwide gas prices hit $5 a gallon. The national average price jumped 19 cents this past week, and is up $1.93 from this time last year. Nationwide average price for gasoline has topped $5 for the first time ever. That's not true. First time in recent history. Gas was up. Oh, actually, no, it wasn't, because the value of the dollar was different back in the 1980s. So, AAA said the average price on Saturday was $5. So it is continuing to jump up, jump up, jump up, jump up. And remember, working off last year was a smaller jump into June and then a flattening until September. So I think we're going to hit that 9%. Then I checked other things, and this was published. When was this published? June 11th. So already 1/3 into the month, gas prices have hit all-time highs, so it's going to be even bigger. And gas trickles down to almost everything. Gas and oil trickle down to, because you got to move products. Everything needs energy, so you get the gist of why it's so important to look at oil. And they like to remove oil from the equation because that's what goes up the most. Median Manhattan apartment rents tops a new record. Again, this is part of the equation is how much people are paying for rent, how much are people paying for their mortgages. All this stuff is factored into inflation. But here's the big one, and this is what I've been getting to. It's a part of the larger theory of the road to Ruta, that Trump and Putin and Xi did work together to destroy the bad guys. The first guy to be the bad guy was Trump. He was the bad guy. Obvious. I still can't believe they're still trying to go after Trump for January 6th, which was a great day, by the way. Don't listen to what the idiots tell you. Shanghai returns to lockdown. So, sorry, it was Trump, and then Putin was second, and then third is going to be Xi of China. And that's going to be probably this summer. China will shut off the United States. Imagine that. No more goods from China. Everything will hyperinflate. Shanghai returns to lockdown for mass testing just days after reopening. They're using the sickness thing to shut down its exports, which means higher prices. There's less goods going out. That's demand destruction, or the supply destruction. And the demand's still there because everybody's getting free money. So what happens? We see hyperinflation and moving. So China is doing their job. They're going to be the bad guy last. Keep an eye out for that. Republicans and Democrats dismiss the impact of January 6th, could have midterms. It's stupid. Economy stupid. The whole thing is such a joke. And the worst part is they're using our money to do it. The Mueller investigation was paid for by the U.S. citizens. This stupid play they're acting out in Congress is being paid for by us. They hired them ABC producer to overlay the voice sounds that are completely doctored, and it's illegal to do that in court, by the way. But this is not a court. This is a show pony. It's not even a trial. It's nothing in Congress. It's a Democrat meeting. Yes, there's 2 Republicans on it, but both those Republicans have hated Trump since day one. Hated the good guys since day one. Hated our nation since day one. But hey, one thing you can tell is how much the Democrats control the news media. Everybody but Fox was showing this ridiculous kangaroo court show on their station and giving up all the advertising that they could have had by airing their normal programming. It's crazy. It's really bizarre world we're living in right now. And yeah, they want to do a lot with this crazy little cockamamie thing they're doing. The most important thing is it's dividing Congress again. And so when it comes time to bail out the banks, and there needs to be a vote on it, especially for FDIC insurance, hint, hint, they're not going to be able to agree. And there you go. Poof, there goes the dollar. Get your physical silver in your own possession. I'll be talking to Andy Schectman next week, and we'll be talking about how the supply is going, that side of the equation. Silver's practically free right now. You're going to go from $22 to $22,000 in a blink of an eye if it was freely traded. And it will be. At some point, they're going to shut down the comics. So the world's going to change this year. You better get on board ASAP. Go to your local silver store or contact Andy Schectman. You can send him an email, Andy, A-N-D-Y, at milesfranklin.com, MILESFRANKLIN, Franklin.com. And he can set you up with physical silver mailed to your front door. So go check that out. I highly suggest, buy what he's got in inventory. Don't wait around. Whatever 1 ounce coins or 10 ounce, up to 10 ounce bars, nothing more than 10 ounce bars. Because if a silver bar goes from this price, $22, to say $10,000 an ounce, and you have a 100 ounce bar, all of a sudden that's a big deal. That's $1 million. And with, wait a minute, 10,000, 100, yeah, it's $1 million, right? Yeah, because you're adding two. No, it's $100,000. So you can have $100,000 sitting there. It's $1 million. Come on, Bix Weir. I'm having a brain fart right now. Okay, 10,000 times 100 is $1 million, right? Yeah, it's $1 million. You can have $1 million bar sitting there, and most people won't be able to buy it. So, and anybody who does buy it, it's going to be a completely different world because no one will trust anybody. They're going to ask you to melt that bar down, or they're going to have to melt it down for you, or they're going to drill into the bar to check that it hasn't been stuffed with something. More likely, the local guys will just drill in, try to save all the shavings because those shavings are worth thousands of dollars. Why deal with that? Just get a 1 ounce coin, and then you'll just get the $10,000 in cash probably. At that time, cash will be flowing like a river. So that's it. That's all I got for you. Go check out the latest Jenny Moonstone discussion about we go down when the inflation will really kick in. You'll be really interested in that. And we talk about which cryptos will survive and thrive, absolutely thrive when the new regulations come out. Most of them will just go away. And because of the regulations, but some will really thrive. So go check that out. Or if you want to join the Road to Ruta, go to roadtoruta.com, hit subscribe today. The free stuff is on the left side. Just put your name and email address in there, and we will put you on the mailing list. But if you want access to all the Road to Ruta information, you're going to have to join the private road membership. And with every membership, we give out one of these, a silver Ruta Lives coin with a hand-painted red heart in the middle, double-struck. Beautiful coin. When the Road to Ruta theory is correct, I don't even know how much these coins will go for. That's why we're not selling them to the masses. Only with subscription, and only to Road to Ruta members. So go check that out. This is Bix Weir. I'll talk to you later.